Hello. So this video actually is kind of the second part to the linear or not video. It's the very last section very last part of section 10, which is on equations. And in the previous video, I talked about how we kind of explored y equals mx plus b. And we found out that that slope that we were finding actually is the m in y equals mx plus b. And the b is actually the y-intercept, 0 comma b. So if we keep with that in the back of our minds, we should be able to explore these formulas and understand the slope and understand the y-intercept. So if I take a look at f of x equals 3x plus 9, and by the way, you have this file in Blackboard. It's called the Table for Slope and Y-Intercept from Equation. So you can download this and you can work out the ones that I'm not going to do on this video because I'm not going to do them all. But let's just look at the first one together. So we have f of x equals 3x plus 9. We want to write this in slope-intercept form. Well, this already looks like y equals mx plus b. I don't have to do anything else. So to write this equation in slope-intercept form, it already is. So I don't have to do anything. Okay, it's going to be f of x equals 3x plus 9. If you wanted to rewrite this as y equals 3x plus 9, that's the same thing because we learned that y equals f of x. Okay, so it doesn't make a difference. So now that I am looking at it through the lens of y equals mx plus b, what's in the position of m? What's the slope? Well, the slope is always the coefficient on x, and so the slope is going to be a 3. What's the y-intercept? The y-intercept is always that constant term, okay? The one that's alone, okay? The b value of y equals mx plus b. And so my y-intercept is going to be 0, 9. And remember, y-intercepts are always ordered pairs. They're not single numbers. So you're going to write it as the point 0, 9. And we talked about that from the very beginning of the semester. Okay? Let's take a look at g of t. So I'm going to leave this one for you to do. Okay, let's take a look at g of t. G of t equals 7 plus 2t. That doesn't look exactly like y equals mx plus b. Okay, because these are in the wrong order. I'm supposed to have the x term or the variable term first. Okay, it doesn't matter that my variables are now t. Okay, that doesn't make a difference. But I do need to have that variable term first if I want it to look like y equals mx plus b. So to fix that, I'm going to need to rearrange those two terms. So this is going to be g of t equals 2t plus 7. And all I'm doing is rearranging those terms. This way it looks perfectly like y equals mx plus b. What is now in place of m that we can pick out? There's a 2 in place of m. And what's the y-intercept? Well, 7 is in place of b, so it's going to be the ordered pair 0, 7. All right, I'm going to leave the next one for you to do. So let's go to this one, y equals 8 minus x. Again, I have that same problem, okay? This doesn't look like mx plus b because my variable term is not listed first. So I want to fix that. I have to rearrange those terms. So this is y equals negative x, because the sign has to stay, plus 8. So you have to make sure that the sign stays with the term that it was attached to. What does that make the slope? That makes my slope negative 1, because there's a negative in front of the x. We know there's always an imaginary 1 there. And that makes my y-intercept 0. Oops. That makes my y-intercept 0, 8. Okay, let's look at the next one. F of x equals 4x. Seems to be a term missing, okay, because there is no constant term shown here. Well, if there's no constant term shown, then that's just f of x equals 4x plus 0 because I can attach 0 to anything and it doesn't change it. So there's really a plus 0 there. What does that make my slope? Well, I still had a coefficient on x, so my slope is 4. But what does that make my y-intercept? Well, the b value is 0, and so this is going to be the coordinate 0, 0. Okay, let's do the next one. F of x equals 6. Again, there appears to be a term missing, but which term is missing? This time it's the x term that's missing. So if I had to rewrite it and put that x term back, it would be f of x equals 0x, because there is no x term, so it's just like having a 0x there, plus 6. What does that mean my slope was? My slope was the one that was 0 now, because there was no x term. Okay, so the coefficient was 0. What does that make my y-intercept? Well, the constant term was 6. So that makes my y-intercept 0, 6. That also, because it has a slope of 0, thinking back to previous videos, means that this is going to be a horizontal line, because horizontal lines have a slope of 0. All right. Now we come to the trickier ones. So I'm actually going to do the last one. I'm going to leave the other two for you to do. I'm going to do the last one together. This one is going to require me to do more work, so I'm going to write on it instead of type this time. Okay. I have a problem here. This is nowhere close to y equals mx plus b. It is nowhere close to slope-intercept form. Why is it called slope-intercept form? Because we have the slope, we have the y-intercept, okay? So it's not named for anything special. It's named because that's what it gives you. This doesn't look like that. It doesn't have y by itself. So my goal here is to get y by itself. I need it to look like y equals mx plus b. That means I need to solve for y. We know how to do that. We've done that in the first review video. So I need to take 2y plus 6x equals 8 and start moving things away from y. So first, I'm going to take away 6x. I'm going to take away 6x. I'm not going to write it as 8 minus 6x because I want to keep that variable term first. So I'm going to write this as 2y equals negative 6x plus 8. Then I have to get y by itself. There's still a 2 attached with multiplication, so I need to divide everything by 2. If I divide this by 2, I have to divide all of this by 2. Everything has to be divided by 2. And that's going to leave me with y equals, can I simplify those? In this case, I can. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So I have a negative 3x. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I have a plus 4. So I just found out doing the algebra that this formula is the same as y equals negative 3x plus 4. How did I know originally that this was going to be linear, that I had the ability to write it as y equals mx plus b? Remember, the definition of a linear equation, a linear formula, a linear function, whatever you want to call it, is that the y and x variables only have one as an exponent. So I knew that this was going to be able to be written as y equals mx plus b, okay, because I know it's going to be linear. So I got my answer. It's going to be y equals negative 3x plus 4. What does that mean my slope is? Okay, that means my slope, m, is negative 3. And what does that mean my y-intercept is? That means my y-intercept is 0, 4. If you're not 100% sure that you did the algebra correctly, there's absolutely no reason that you can't double check that the 0.04 does in fact work in the original problem. So I could take 2y plus 6x equals 8, and I could say, oh, is 0,4 going to work? So I can say 2 times 4 plus 6 times 0. Does that give me 8? Remember, I don't put an equal sign in a check. This is considered a check. So this is going to be 8 plus 0. Sure enough, I get 8. So it does work out. I do wind up getting that same ordered pair. So my algebra is probably correct. So I hope this makes sense. The other thing that I wanted to do here is connect this to a graph before we call this a complete lesson. So I just want to go back to maybe the first one and remind us how this would connect to a graph. I had mentioned, I think during class in one of my sessions, that now you have the ability to graph these 1, 2, 3. Okay, you don't have to make a table anymore. You can just graph because you'll know the y-intercept and you'll know the slope. So if I wanted to graph f of x equals 3x plus 9, let's set up some axes. So I'll do it, I guess, over here. Okay, if I wanted to graph that, okay, let me put in my tick marks. I'm going to increment my x by 1 because this slope is really like 3 over 1. We can always put these over 1. So I'm going to increment my x's by 1s. So this is going to go 1, 2, 3. And then -1, -2, -3. And then I'm going to increment my y's by 3s because I'm supposed to be going up 3 to the right 1. So I'm going to increment my y's by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12. And you can go higher, okay? But this is just to demonstrate. I know where I'm starting. I'm starting at 0, 9, okay? I can tell that just looking at the formula now. I don't have to do any kind of plugging in. So I make a dot. Let me change color so we can see. I'm going to make a dot at 0, 9. And then this is telling me how to move. Remember, you can put it over 1. So I want to move up 3 and to the right 1. So from 9, I'm going to go up 3, which is 12, and then to the right 1. And that's where my next dot is going to be. You could keep going if you want, but it only takes 2 points to make a line. So with that, I can connect these dots. And now I have the line. You can even extend it down if you want to approximate where it would cross the x-axis. Okay, and you could do that on paper just with a straight edge. You can extend it out. So now you have the ability to look at this, pick out the slope and the y-intercept, and then graph 1, 2, 3. Okay, I hope this made sense. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, let me know if you have any questions about any of the videos. All right, take care.